The remnants of the War of Vietnam left a generation of men and boys with physical and psychological wounds that would last many of them the rest of their lives. Since Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter in 1978, filmmakers have been attempting to rationalize the irrational and come to grips with returning to peacetime and reintegrating our former soldiers back into society. Sure, we've seen it all before, but have you ever seen it with the guy from Third Rock from the Sun, the littlest paisan, Ralph Macchio? I think not. Welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Half-Ass Movie Podcast, a show where we put together a half-ass theme as an excuse to watch movies. My name is Adam Portress, and joining me today, he wishes he was in Vietnam, if only to be able to smoke at work. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Is that Ralph Macchio trying to cry in this scene?
And he, too, thinks there's nothing wrong with passing around a plate of Hostess cakes to house guests. Bruce Leslie.
There's a couple of cheap ways a movie can hook me, and my friend, that is one of the ways they can hook me.
He's just like, listen, I'm in from here on out. I don't care what goes on in the rest of this film, which I don't know that that's the smartest of plans. But welcome back to HMP, everybody. This week we continue on our Mucho Ralph Macchio marathon with Distant Thunder from 1988. I believe it's 88. I can't remember if it was 88 or 89.
88.
Okay, good deal. Just the year before Batman, we were all talking about Distant Thunder. I feel like we remember that, right?
Man, this movie was very distant and not quite thunderous enough because I didn't know it existed.
And honestly, this is kind of why I wanted to pick this one because, listen, with Ralph Macchio, the obvious three ones that we're looking at are, Karate Kids 1, 2, and 3, the things he's obviously most known for and everything. So I thought maybe we go outside the kind of, the regular route here and everything. And this is one of those that's in the kind of middle of his catalog here and everything that's not, high up on everybody's list. But it's got John Lithgow in it, so I thought, you know what? Let's give this a roll. It may be great, it may be terrible, and sometimes you got to just go with the punches and live and learn sometimes. But I went into this not thinking that I would get a fantastic movie, and so but we'll kind of talk about what this movie sets up, what it kind of gives away, and everything because I think it's a little bit. I think it should. We'll got some stuff to talk about though, for sure.
Should we open with box office versus budget, or should we save that for later?
Oh, we'll save that for a little bit later and everything like that. But it's kind of a Vietnam movie in a sense like that. This was the late '80s here and everything, so we're still kind of kicking along with all the kind of Vietnam movies and stuff like that. Platoon and all these things.
If Vietnam was shot in someone's backyard.
Hey, man.
Which it may have been.
That vegetation was rented just like any other thing, okay? Just roll them in there and do what you're going to do.
I honestly, like, it's unfortunate because if they would have gone that route, it's just somebody's backyard, at least you would have had the thing of like, oh my God, this is amazing that they're trying to pull this off instead of what it actually is, which is, man, you're not anywhere close to Vietnam here. Come on.
Well, believe it or not, throughout this film, I did actually find some moments of joy here.
Oh, me too. There are a few things to recommend it for sure.
Yeah, so I kind of look forward into having this discussion, but I took pretty detailed notes here compared to what I usually have. So 2 or 3 pages, but it's large
nice
letters. I have bad eyes.
I took notes as well. Just on my thoughts on this. I know that on our text chain, I said something shitty about the movie, as one would while watching this movie. But I think, but I did not actually do the thing I said I was going to do. I can't remember, like, things I'd rather be doing or something like that. I did not do that. Like, these are just goofy notes. What I ended up having to do to get through all the Fast and the Furious movies, the same thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, and honestly, that was go ahead.
Not as fast as those, but it was pretty furious. This movie.
There were points I was, but while watching this though, and we'll definitely get into this as we kind of go on and stuff. My biggest thought process was just like, what would actually make this good? Just kind of like where things are falling off.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Because I kind of wanted to figure it out.
Hire totally different actors.
It's like, it's like, it's
get
an
actual writer.
Well, hey, I said, well, get there, damn it.
A screenplay writer. That'd be good.
Well, that is one thing that I did just before we get in there. One thing I did kind of notice, it felt to me that like the director was very much more into the visualization as opposed to like what is actually on screen as far as performances and the words that are coming out of people's mouths and stuff. It felt just like kind of I want to say like a low rent. The whole movie is low rent Terrence Malick does Rambo.
Did either of you look up the prior credits for Rosenthal, the director of this movie?
Oh yeah, we'll go over it.
I didn't.
We'll go over it.
How about we just go over it?
We'll go over it in a second. Before we do that, we want to tell everybody to subscribe to this here program on YouTube.
We go over it.
Shut up. Oh, I see what you just want to. You can't wait to talk about it enough. I understand. You're chomping at the bit. He's just like, listen, I got to talk about that. I got to talk about Distant Thunder. All right, just chill out.
A movie that Adam Portress himself said we should watch during a month that Adam Portress said we should do.
Distant Thunder. That's when you can hear your uncle in the upstairs bathroom.
But before we do any of that, head on over to YouTube and type in Half-Ass Movie Podcast.
Christ, it's like I'm put on this earth to save you guys from yourselves. Jesus Christ.
I'm going to the next thing. And you know what? Speaking of which, though, I had a comment on YouTube. Thus, I just want to highlight this. This was the highlight of the week. And I don't like it because it's mean to me. It says, "Why do you look like a fusion of Steve Buscemi and William Fichtner?" Laughy face emoji. I don't look like those gentlemen. I got a big forehead like Fichtner. I'll give you that much.
He's a smooth dude, though. That's a compliment.
He looks like a Rango character. I like the guy. He's a great actor, but no one's gonna look at him and go like, "What a handsome devil."
Hey, ladies, you could do a lot worse than Rango, and you know it.
That's very true. You can leave a comment for me like that. Just to disparage me over there on the YouTubes. That's what everybody else does. It's a whole hell of a lot of fun. So appreciate
what did
that.
you expect?
I don't
know. What did you expect? I warned you guys for 10 bloody years.
Oh, I don't
Stop reading the comments, and you can't help yourself. You read the comments.
I interact with the people because we have such a
that's
small,
what it is.
Shut up. It's because we have such a small following that any amount of comments on the thing starts boosting things up. So I'm trying to pad the algorithm by looking at things and responding and saying, "Why do you hate me?" But you can do all that over, the links are in the show notes, so go check all of that out. And, of course, patreon.com/HMP, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. In the pre-show this week, I talk all about my vacation and everything. I didn't talk about how dark and tan I got here and everything, because it's something else. I'm thinking about moving into Bruce's house and trying to gaslight him into thinking I'm one of his older kids. I'm at that level right now, so I just be like, "No, listen, you forgot about me, Dad. You forgot all about this."
You don't look like one of my kids.
I was gonna say, think of that, a Filipino person over 5'6".
That's true. That's like I'd have to have a trench coat and tell you I had another one underneath me.
Do the dwarf thing, dwarf your way through my house.
Just attach the shoes to my knees and start flopping around. You can clearly see my giant feet behind me. I'd do that. So, hey, listen, it'd be a better life than what I got rolling down. So I think I'd roll with it.
It's not that those videos that video is like 45 minutes long, and it's basically one joke.
Yeah,
it's that there's like 10. It's like there's 10 of those. There's 10 of those,
and you had to call a phone number from an ad on TV to see it. People wanted dwarfs so bad they were doing that.
I was always perplexed by that, even as a child. When those ads would come on TV, I would be like, "Who's buying this?"
And you had to have a credit card because no CODs on those things or either thing. So you had to have the money to do it.
Even if you're into golf or Tim Conway, you still don't want to buy that thing.
I lived in a rural area and I assumed it was a big city thing. Those city folks are weird. They love that dwarf.
What's the Venn diagram for Tim Conway fans and fishing? You know?
Well, it's golfing. He's a golfer.
Well, he does. Listen, Dorf does all those things. He golfs, he fishes, he does there was a series. He did everything. Dorf on there's at least 3 or 4 different Dorfs on outside of just the golf.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Oh, listen.
Does he get scared stupid at some point?
It's not too far afield. But
I take Ernest over Dorf all day long.
Hell yes.
Are you kidding me? And he's got so many like that. My favorite is Ernest Goes to Jail, where he just goes through all the characters so much and everything, just recycling all of them together. So much fun. Yeah. So head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Join up at any level. Love you so much. Thank you. Or drop us an email, halfassmoviepod at gmail.com. All right, gentlemen, Sean's chomping at the bit. Here is the IMDb plotline for Distant Thunder. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. I hate this. John Lithgow stars and Ralph Macchio co-stars as his son. Their uneasy reunion accidentally sparks war-haunted violence, and they share a harrowing fight for survival that will either destroy them or unify them forever. Outside of this is who stars in this movie, that's bullshit. That's completely ridiculous. That's not what happens in this movie at all, but we'll talk about that. The story is by Dee Wheel. She's known for, let's see, check notes. Distant Thunder. That's about it. That's it. Which means that she came up really with the idea for this story and everything, because the co-story and screenplay is by Robert Stitzel, who did the animated Fantastic Four and Godzilla from 1978 and 79, respectively.
Ooh, wow.
He also did Brainstorm with Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood, and his last movie was Eyes of an Angel from 1991 with John Travolta, that horrid era of John Travolta's career.
Christopher Walken never talks much about the behind the scenes from Brainstorm.
You never know.
I heard they had wild boat parties, but he won't tell me about them.
This is directed by Rick Rosenthal, who directed Halloween 2, the OG Bad Boys, the one with Sean Penn, The Witches of Eastwick, and tons of TV, including shows like Buffy, Smallville, Law and Order. Real journeyman director kind of guy. Starring John Lithgow, Ralph Macchio, whose names are both above the title, no less. That's pretty interesting. Carrie Keene, Jamie Sheridan, Dennis Arendt, and Reb Brown is Charlie Hunnam. Because that's all I could do is look at that.
He looks just like him.
He looks so much like Charlie Hunnam. I swear, it was just like I felt like we just traveled into another time.
I'm not going to lie. In the opening credits, I saw Reb Brown's name, and I was literally on the edge of my seat until I finally saw what he looked like in this movie. Because I don't really know him as anything other than Captain America in a motorcycle helmet.
I really do think this. I think that watching him in this, I'll be generous and call it a film. In this,
it was shot on it. So,
in this film, watching him in this, if he was actually a decent actor, he would have had a very big movie career. But he can't act at all.
He definitely has like a good look, though.
Yeah, he looks great.
And he's got enough where he could be like the tough guy or the cleanup, like fancy guy. Like he's got that wonderful in between kind of look.
Well, at the same time, too, though, like look at what he's done. What has he been given to work with?
Hey, he got a motorcycle. He got a clear plexiglass shield.
Like none of those things are exactly great material for him to be working with here.
You're going real Portress blaming the equipment move here. Like I think that he is just a really bad actor. I mean, it's the reason why he's not working with Scorsese after this. Like he's just not a very good actor.
He's a great extra though. Like if he stands and looks, he can look kind of cool.
Yeah, he looks great.
Like he can do facial expressions too. I mean, like I'm not trying to be facetious.
Bruce is up here going, he's got a face, everybody.
No,
if you
really
tell him
good.
to look menacing, he can look menacing. You tell him to look happy, he can look happy. But just get the guy that did all of Sam J. Jones's dialogue in Flash Gordon to come do it for him, and you got yourself an Academy Award.
I like that Bruce's idea of directing is, hey, Reb, give me happy. There you go. Good job.
Hey, you should meet the talent I had to work with at Werewolf Fighter.
Oh, exactly. Well, it's like, I got to dumb this down. Happy. Show me happy. I can't give them any more than that. They're just going to explode.
Act like you have to pee really badly.
I had no idea what this was like going in and everything. I knew it was kind of you're in the 80s here. It's a decent era for John Lithgow and everything. I would say he's like let's get the John Lithgow thoughts. I mean, honestly, that's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to veer towards this film, anyways, just to see a Lithgow performance I hadn't seen before.
I gotta say, I spent a good part of my childhood wondering what it would be like if John Lithgow was Rambo, and now I know. Now, in my defense, I thought, what would every single actor be like as Rambo? Because I had a little bit of a Rambo fixation for about 12 years.
Well, you are the machete kid, so.
Yeah, case in point.
Lithgow, this is what I wrote down. I don't believe the following things about Lithgow, because he's totally miscast in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't believe the following things about Lithgow. He never played football. He wasn't in Vietnam, and he isn't haunted by violent demons. All three of those things.
Oh, I'm still seeing like this is what happened before his character in The World According to Garp decided to really embrace who he really was or whatever.
He's great in The World According to Garp because, that role requires an actor, and he's acting in that movie. This is like playing a hard-boiled, like down on his luck Vietnam vet is not a John Lithgow move. You can't pull it off.
I feel like the agent called him up and says, okay, we got 2 gigs, each pretty well equal in pay, equal quality push. One, you have to be a snobbish poetry professor at a boys' private school, and the other one, you have to be a Navy SEAL. And Lithgow's like, SEAL? I love SEALs. Or. And then the rest is history.
Or he's trying to transition. I know for a while he was trying to transition his like what people thought of him, because he is the bad guy in Cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this role, and Cliffhanger can't be that far ahead. Like, it's probably 2 years later. I mean, it's not that far away.
It's a little later than you would think. I'm trying to scroll through his little thing right now, and I think
it's what I'll call the Michael Jordan phenomenon. You can't be happy with being really, really good at something, so you have to go be bad at something else to appreciate it.
Right.
But
Also,
at this point, like he'd had a lot of kind of things with your, Brian De Palma and Blowout and stuff like that, and Footloose. He'd already been the big reverend in that and stuff like that.
And
so
he's great in that.
Name.
Yeah. I mean, he's great. He's great in a lot of these roles that you're mentioning because they're perfect for him. Like, those are the right roles. Like, I just see him like acting. I'm acting like he's that kind of actor.
And Cliffhanger 93.
Say what?
Cliffhanger 93.
Okay, so it's 5 years later.
Yeah. Like, I could see
the amount of stuff though that he does in those 5 years would blow your mind. Like, boy was working.
Yeah.
I could see him way more as a Hans Gruber type though than a Rambo type.
Oh, sure, but that's because Hans Gruber requires acting.
And we know if John Lithgow was in the army, he was like replacing typewriter ribbons for people or something, right?
Well, he definitely didn't tell.
So I will say that one thing that is I love just the kind of the bad Photoshop on everything. It's so atrociously bad, especially in the picture that Macchio carries with him and with Dad's face in the middle. It is so like sadly pasted on there that it's bad, man.
In '88, cut and paste still involves scissors and tape and paste. Like, I think that it's not even Photoshop. I think it's actual.
No, it probably was, but it's just like they didn't like
bother. You piece it together and then take a photo of that, and that's your photo.
They didn't shrink the head down enough.
88, a movie like this, you're probably photocopying pictures. Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going as little and as like about making fun of the Photoshop, can we talk about the gigantic elephant in this room of this movie, which is this movie was written by someone who knows that movies exist but has never actually seen one before. Because I literally had to write down this line because I was like, what are we fucking doing here? Because the line is Macchio walks up to his football coach, who's also his teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his teacher literally says this to Macchio. He goes, "You're the valedictorian of your class. I'll take that over a kid who can throw a pigskin any day."
Oh man, I've got a lot of questions around our introduction to Ralph Macchio. If we can go ahead and talk about some of those.
But yeah, I mean, we can't. But you're right; it doesn't happen. But like, it's exposition soup. There's like it's the first part of the meal.
it's written like a stage play
Mhm.
because people are constantly like there's a self-importance to this script. Like you can tell the person who's writing it thinks they're smart.
Well, yeah, like I said, this is that like we started on with Deer Hunter and everything, and everybody's trying to make their great Vietnam movie. Brian De Palma would end up doing it. You know, everybody would get their hand at it from like the late '80s. I mean, like late '70s rather, all the way on to the early '90s and whatnot. Some of them doing it twice, which is a weird thing. But this is trying to get into that group here and everything, and it's not. It's not great. It's not, they're not all going to be Platoon. I think ultimately it's because we're doing the kind of aftermath here and everything, and it's like you said, Sean, you really ultimately don't buy Lithgow as a vet per se.
But I mean, that's one of the problems of the movie. But literally, the biggest problem of the movie is the script. Like the script is just awful. Like it's just terrible. And the other part to this, which makes me think that it was originally written as a stage play, is because everyone's monologuing in this movie too. Like everybody, like it's like when they're, it's like you can see in the script, stands down stage, begins speaking.
Well, I think this goes back to that opening joke. This is written by somebody who knows movies exist but haven't seen one, but maybe they have seen and written a lot of plays, and they didn't think it was that different. But I totally get what you're saying. In addition, like things that always felt like stage plays to me too were the after-school specials. Didn't we talk about those just a couple weeks ago with Ralph Macchio?
Yeah.
But this really feels like a big budget after-school special.
It's not even that big a budget, though.
Well, it's $8 million. Most after-school specials probably didn't get that much.
No,
probably.
But don't you think that probably let's say 2 million of that probably went to your two big names in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That probably is the answer here. But
so you're saying that Tom Bosley and Scott Baio didn't get $1 million each?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. But I think that but I think that's the perfect correlation for what this movie actually is that it's after school special really is what it is, where just the level of histrionics that happen in this movie, where you're just like, wow, like that's and no one told you to pull that back at all. Like that's, yep, you're in the woods, Vietnam guy. Yep.
Hey, replace John Lithgow with Michael Gross. Replace Ralph Macchio with Willie Ames. You have a great after-school special.
Yeah,
Willie
or
Ames.
just keep who you got in here and just let him go. Let him go. So I got to ask this question. Does this movie have the world's first funny suicide by train scene?
Okay. I have multiple lines written about this too. So I would love to talk about it. First off, suicide by train is a thing that happens where I live. I'm just a couple of blocks from train tracks. I grew up across the street from train tracks.
Sure.
And I used to play around a train tunnel. So when they first start walking towards the tunnel, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary to me. So I really did kind of get caught off by the hit. But it definitely felt like it would be more at place in a Final Destination movie than in what this movie is trying to be.
It feels like it's like it's unintentionally funny for sure, but it is funny. Like it is actually funny. It is I laughed out loud at the scene, and maybe it's because it's the way it's edited.
Well,
I'll tell you part of it. And I think this is true because I noticed this right off the bat, specifically with this scene. There's not a ton of it more. Maybe I could put in one or two more little spots where I might have been able to see it. But if you've ever shot a low budget movie or anything, especially with now I'm not putting this on these actors here per se, but on the one I am, I think. But some actors will, if you allow them to, right, will pepper up their dialogue with a lot of F-bombs for no real particular reason other than the fact that they think it makes them feel like they're real, right?
Yeah.
And this first opening scene with this guy is so chock-a-block with F-bombs that that cannot That's the only reason that's there. They didn't write all those. That this is an actor doing this, throwing those in there, trying to make it look cool, and like he's just like, hey man, I don't gotta do any of this stuff, man. Blah, blah, blah. It's bad.
That's what kept him from getting that sweet 4 to 6 time spot on a Tuesday on ABC. Was the
If they would have done this correctly, TBS could have played this for ad nauseum, and somebody would have watched it because they're like, oh shit, Ralph Macchio's on TV.
Right? Did you guys recognize Tom Bauer, the guy who gets hit by the train?
I did not,
because that guy was always a scumbag. As a matter of fact, I wrote down this note. Has Tom Bauer ever played a normal person in a movie? He's always the guy they call when they need someone to violently masturbate on a bus.
Oh, and that's not even for the movie. That's just the ride to the audition.
We just need somebody to stand here, please.
So this isn't me trying to ask a ridiculous question. I'm genuinely curious. Have you guys ever spent much time on train tracks?
I've listen, like any douche art kid, I've taken pictures by train tracks.
That's where I did it too.
Yeah, exactly. We all done it.
Of course, when you're a douchey art kid, that's all you do, man. And you're like,
looks cool, bro.
This is pretty deep, man.
Me and my friends played on the train tracks pretty routinely as children, like active train tracks. I had a horrible childhood. I don't know how I survived, but to me, like, I get a lot of like, okay, so they're walking on the train tracks. Like, you live in some places, it's the quickest way to walk somewhere is to walk on the train tracks instead of going around the dirt road and over the hill and all that kind of stuff. So I just used train tracks quite a bit as a kid. At some point I got enough good sense to stay off of them, but it was late in life when that hit. But I just don't know, like, train tracks are such a normal part of life to me. I don't know if that seems sort of exotic or different to other folks when they're seeing them kind of like living and walking around the train tracks there.
I just thought it was a very, we'll call it unique way of the suicide to kind of like focus on for this film and everything.
Back to what made the suicide funny, in my opinion, is the fact that after contact, the body like clung on the front of it like Wile E. Coyote in a Roadrunner cartoon, because what would probably happen is you get thrown under the train and it would tear you to bits,
or it explode.
Blood would splatter. But there's no blood splatter. It really does look the way it would in a Something About Mary type movie instead of in a gritty Vietnam.
And the great shot of the shoe underneath that they kind of keep going back and forth, because this is to me, this whole movie feels like just kind of very low rent Terrence Malick shit. But like,
you keep saying that, but Terrence Malick like shoots a beautiful movie.
Right, that's my point.
But this movie isn't beautiful.
No, but it's trying to be. That's the thing. It's trying to be arty. It's trying to be heady and give you something very, very cool, but it's not succeeding in it. But like, I will say this, because even as corny as it is, though, with the shoe, I do like the edit back and forth to his face and everything, just as far as like, from an editing standpoint and everything. It looks neat. It's a little corny and stupid with the shoe, whatever. But like, I like at least artistically what this guy's attempting to do with the, paltry product with which he was given or, crafted himself, I suppose.
And the movie will bring us back to the train tracks, because this was made before that ill-fated Greg Allman movie. Now the idea of filming anything on train tracks freaks me out.
I do like the idea that it's just like, hey, I'm just the threatening of I'm gonna go walk on the train tracks, of that just being like hey, that's what I'm just gonna go do, and that's your form of suicide. And like, is it just because it's easy or something? I'm not quite sure why. Cause
I think it's because it'll look like an accident and it's not obvious to everybody that it was suicide. You shoot yourself, they know you shot yourself. You get hit by a train, maybe you were drunk and passed out on the tracks. Yeah,
but when there are 5 vets in a row, you're going to start thinking, maybe these cats are just walking out in front of trains.
Now that part might be a little monkey see, monkey do. I don't know.
It's just like, yeah, exactly. It's just like, hey, man, that's how John went out. So I guess that's the only way you can go, right?
Did you guys
tall buildings where they live?
Did you guys catch the name of the town in Illinois where Daniel San lives at the beginning of this movie? Like when he goes to his high school to talk to his coach and everything?
No, I just saw Illinois.
It was Haddon Falls, Illinois.
Okay. just adjacent to Haddonfield.
Yes, and this
well, that's true because it's the director of Halloween 2, so
2
that's
and
fun.
3. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this movie and I'm getting lots of what I'm convinced are Halloween Easter eggs. But also I'm a bear trap kind of guy, so I might be making them up. But that's the first one. Is Haddon Falls is a lot like Haddonfield.
No, that's 100% intentional. That's great.
Yeah. So the thing is, I saw Haddon Falls, Illinois. That's crazy before I realized the connection with the director, but I already saw that. I was like, okay, somebody's lacking in the creativity department, which will continue to happen because sometimes this movie thinks it's Apocalypse Now. Sometimes it thinks it's Platoon. Sometimes it thinks it's a lot of movies that it's not. A lot of better movies.
Very true.
And then I also noticed when he went into his high school that their mascot are the Gray Ghosts.
Yeah, which I think is awesome. What a great name for
I just wrote Gray Ghost is a kick-ass mascot. So if there's ever like a new elementary school or something opening up in your neighborhood and they let the public vote, I'm asking people to vote for Gray Ghosts.
I listen, all I could think of is just like I live in a place where you're just like, I better be careful with that ghost costume.
Well,
that's all I could think of.
Bruce lives in a place like that too.
I was just like, I don't know how comfortable I'd be with that around here, but maybe that's me.
Well, at least the school was Lincoln High School, I think, so it had that going for it. But also, I wanted to ask. We already kind of mentioned that the high school coach says being able to crack a book is better than throwing a touchdown. That's what the person who wrote this movie wishes they would have heard.
Yes,
of course.
But it does make me want to ask you, like they kind of make a big deal out of it, but do you think being high school valedictorian matters at all?
No, I mean, like it's a nice accolade to have and everything, but like it also depends upon your high school and everything. Where are you going to high school? Are you going to high school where I went to? Okay, that means that you're probably a good A student anywhere else. But I don't know that that's going to put you, at the head of Princeton. You know what I mean?
What do you think, Sean?
My youngest daughter was valedictorian of her high school. It does matter. Just because she was getting mail for things that I didn't know that people cared about, like the CIA, the FBI, NASA, like they all send you stuff. Like, hey, we're interested in talking to you.
The FBI will send you stuff too, but it's totally different.
Well, I get stuff from the FBI still. Just all the time, just for me personally.
Well, I don't know if you guys are ready to be shocked or not, but I was my high school's valedictorian.
You over, yes. But you don't put too much into stuff.
Were you getting that stuff though? Were you getting the stuff from?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you get all that stuff. But also, I too, felt like it didn't really matter because it's high school, man. Being high school valedictorian matters just as much as being the editor of the high school newspaper. It means somebody had to do it.
Sure.
It's funny is that like anybody goes back, oh, would you if you go back, would you do anything different? I'm like, no, not really. I mean, I was kind of a BC student, whatever. I don't know that I'd go back and try super extra hard or slag off anymore. I'd do about the same.
I certainly wouldn't have tried harder. I mean,
yeah. Well, listen, you got at the top of the rung. Why would you try harder than that?
That's what I'm saying. I believe me, more effort could have been put into things.
Oh man.
But I don't think that it needed to.
Sometimes I take a rest. It's good. But yeah, listen, I do love also Ralph Macchio with his accent being here in Illinois. Thought that was just like, fabulous.
I even wrote that note that he's the only person in this movie with a Long Island accent.
Well, that's also a Central Illinois accent. You guys clearly haven't been to those places. I don't even know what those places are. I tried to name a well-known city in Central Illinois, but I don't know where Peoria is.
Decatur.
Okay, Decatur.
Everybody in Illinois is writing letters right now going, you dumb mother.
Springfield. There's always a Springfield.
Oh, absolutely.
There's definitely a Springfield, Illinois.
There you go.
But
that's where old Lincoln came from.
Now, also, I think that's about it for what I had there with the school. But I do want to say one of my first beautiful, joyful moments in this movie happens early on when the guy comes down from the mountain and he's getting a job there at the loggery. What do you call the place that turns logs into boards? The boardery, the log cutter,
the lumber yard.
There you go.
The lumber yard. Okay, man, those logging boats. I wish if I could go back in time and do anything different, I would have made it my life's goal to be one of those boat drivers, because they're like bumper cars on water. Did you see them doing like 360s and stuff?
It's cool.
It looked awful fun. I'm not gonna lie to you there.
And that's the kind of thing that has to be real. Like, this is not the kind of movie to go and manufacture.
No, definitely not.
It's called We Have Access to This Stuff. Perfect.
Before we leave the school, I have to say it is my favorite thing about this movie is that this movie's made. I know I say this all the time, but this movie's made in a time where it was still totally fine to cast 30-year-olds to play high schoolers. Yeah. And I'm not talking about the Ralph Macchio who looks like he's 17. I mean, like, you got people who look kind of like I look right now playing as a high schooler.
Is that a teacher or a student? Nobody knows.
It's the best, man. Like, I love that they used to make movies like this and TV shows like this. And I think that we lost something as a country once we started putting actual high schoolers in our high school TV shows and movies.
Adam, didn't you have us watch like Malibu High or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely had some 30-year-old high school students, but for legal reasons.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, listen, we want to stay above board here, even though we're a schlock piece of crap company.
And this movie's tugging at our heartstrings because he's valedictorian. It's his graduation, and his father didn't attend. And it made me wonder if either of you guys have ever had life events like a graduation that parents didn't attend, one or both.
I almost didn't attend my own graduation because I didn't go, like, the semester of senior year, I didn't do anything. I had like 2 broadcast journalism, a guitar lab, and a study hall. I did nothing. So it was pretty sweet. So I barely was in school. I didn't hear a lot of announcements and stuff. So I didn't know when the rehearsal and everything was. We didn't have email and stuff back then either. So it's just like you just didn't fucking know.
And so obviously you had no friends who were seniors. That's the best. That's the unspoken part of that story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all of my friends that were seniors didn't bother calling me and just be like, "Hey, by the way, rehearsal is here, and if you're not in rehearsal, they throw you to the back of the line." So I'm a little bit pissed because there was one girl whose name like was after Portress or whatever, so she ended up being the very last one. I kind of wanted to be the last one. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And this other girl showed up. I was like, rats. Got close though. The worst part was my parents were actually disappointed that I didn't do anything stupid.
You really have like the perfect parents,
expected it,
though,
man. They expected. They were just like, we thought you were going to do something weird. We were waiting for it.
You need to understand that questions like this are really for me and Sean.
That's why I wanted to get it. I just wanted to get that out of the
way. I have the opposite thing, and I think I've said this before on the show, but my dad was a sports dad, like screaming sports dad. Not when I was good at the sport. So like any sport that I was good in, like wasn't a big deal. He in the car ride home, he would give me hell, but he wouldn't scream at me from the stands. And the one sport I was really always awful at was basketball, which he went to college for. Yeah. And so the fact that none of that transferred to me, like his basketballness transferred to me, made him so angry that while I'm playing rec league basketball, like I'm literally like 7. He's in the crowd screaming at me. And one day he's driving me to basketball. He's like, and I got out of the car and he's like, I'm not going to watch you tonight. I can't watch you play basketball anymore. And I was like, okay.
Oh man.
Look, it was the best day of my life because I wasn't going to get screamed at anymore. And so I went in to play. It was the best. It was the best. And I got to stop playing basketball in high school, which was the best because I hated basketball.
I had like no parents at anything ever. So it's hard for me to have much pity for Ralph Macchio here, I guess. I mean, I remember when I graduated from Vanderbilt as a board eligible eye surgeon. Like, this is my final graduation. This is it. This is everything I worked for. There were 4 of us. We each got to give a speech, and I opened my speech with, first off, I'd like to thank my parents for being here. I mean, I'd like to, but they're not, so I can't. And then I gave my speech.
Boom.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into my daughter's stuff, but yeah.
Gray Ghosts.
Gray Ghosts.
But
so where are we headed next? Because I know that we were at school for a long time.
We have gotten up into the woods where we find out John
Right.
Lithgow's a crazy caveman, basically.
Mhm.
And there was a long time in my life when I used to kind of fantasize about just living in the woods, man. Just go off, live in the woods. Nobody bothers you. Do your own thing. Did you ever and this is something you fantasize about before you actually learn how, like before you get to hold the remote control? You know what I mean? Like once you realize how good life is, you don't necessarily do this. But did you guys ever fantasize about just going off and being a reclusive hermit in the mountains like I did?
Growing up,
No.
I never really did that, but as I grow older, the more I'm I want less people around me. If I could step outside and look around 360 degrees and not see another human being, I'd be super sweet with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to be around less people for sure, being in Atlanta here, but I don't mind people as long as there's just not, they're not everywhere all the time.
Exactly.
Always.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I lived in the rainforest for 3 months in Madagascar, and I realized that as bad as people are, extreme weather can be worse.
Sure,
So
I agree
I
with
do
that.
kind of like the security
Sure.
of society and shelter and stuff like that. But boy, there was a long time where I thought maybe my dream life would just disappear. Nobody even knew where I was.
How often did you guys sing "You've Got to Move It, Move It"? Was it a lot?
It was so hard to sleep at night because that's when they really get into it.
The laser light show and everything. It's bizarre.
I had to slip that Cedric the Entertainer one, a candy bar, so they'd knock it off. At you. But I do like it as we're studying the struggle that John Lithgow's facing, and he goes back in towards society or whatever. And we see him there with the sad, fearful look on his face. And it's clearly shot in a way to play him as a sympathetic person. I'm sitting here, and all I could write on my notes as I'm watching this is, are we supposed to feel sorry for the guy who ditched his family? I'm pretty sure this was written by guys who ditched their own family, and they're doing this to feel better about what they did.
That's funny, man. My note for this says, why is everyone nice to Lithgow's character? He's a prick to everyone except the guy from the hilarious train scene.
And then I've got a couple more nice things to say, along with the little logging boats, which, man, I have a new dream in life now, and that's to ride or drive.
Man, that might be I said that my favorite thing is putting 30-year-olds in a high school is my favorite. It might be those little log boats. I love those little log boats.
Also, the Pacific Northwest is a beautiful setting. You don't have to be a great cinematographer to get some nice views to look at. I loved all the water features. I love the trees. I feel really, really happy when I look at some of those pictures, on the screen.
It's
it worked great in Rambo.
That's
it worked awesome in First Blood.
Well, this is trying to be a kindler, gentler Rambo.
Exactly.
This is a kindler, gentler First Blood. This is nowhere near Rambo, but it's trying to be First Blood down to, First Blood. If only Rambo's kid was involved. That happened in Rambo 7 or something like that.
Well, I mean, I would say it's almost like we're actually following an outside character. I mean, because Reb Brown is kind of Rambo if we think about it, because he's the one that's really kind of behind the lines there and everything, and is still kind of back.
We find out that John Lithgow was a Navy SEAL, which is the Navy's version of a Green Beret, which is what Rambo was. So it's clearly Lithgow here who's supposed to be the First Blood, the Rambo guy. And then when the bad guy comes up looking for him in the woods near the end of the movie, he's even got the same hat and jacket that I think Brian Dennehy had in First Blood. It's crazy. But the craziest conspiracy theory I had when I watched this, and I dare not look up anything to disprove it because I love it this much, I think this was shot almost simultaneously with Harry and the Hendersons, because they're both kind of shot in the same forest.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I like the idea that
Harry would make this movie better.
He does Harry and the Hendersons up till noon. Then he goes and glues on a beard, and it's nothing but distant thunder when the sun goes down.
Son, I had to leave you and your mama because I was in Vietnam because I befriended this Bigfoot.
It would have been great if that was the reason he left his
Way
family.
better. Way better.
Man.
Just have him show up in the third act, okay? Don't use him the whole time though.
One more thing I'll say that I just love about this movie, and then I won't have anything else that I love about it. But that lady's little blue car is fantastic.
Man,
it is totally.
You were kidding me.
It's like somebody's daughter's car that they didn't have any other car available, and they just pulled it out of like the one of the gaffer's daughter's garage, and that's what they're driving.
You're kidding me. That's another note I have. Love the cars in this movie. Not just hers, although hers is the featured car.
I don't mean to frighten you, Sean.
I like them all.
We are a lot more alike than you might be comfortable with.
No. Look, man. I mean, we have a show together.
We're not so different, you and I.
It's just, like the way that Daredevil and Kingpin are not so different.
Oh, man. Only we don't say it 4 times an episode.
That is true.
And you can really see the authentic roots of Seattle grunge fashion in this movie.
Man, everybody wearing that good flannel too, not the crappy kind. They got the nice 80s flannel on.
In 3 years, it'd be in Seattle, and within another year, it'd be in a little movie called Singles.
Mm-hmm.
It looks, like I said, the overall kind of look of the movie. It's not awful. It's it's serviceable enough. It's
pretty bad though.
It's not.
It is pretty bad.
I do want to say, if this movie overall is an attempt to portray PTSD in veterans, it has done a huge disservice to veterans.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that I can't help. I'm a lot more sensitive to it. Spent the last year working with veterans and see what real PTSD looks like. And this just makes them feel like people that you're best off to get as far away from as you can. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that really does think that it's giving this message here and everything, and is saying something profound, like a lot of other things try to do, and it certainly fails on that front, because it's like, oh, you don't really know what any of this stuff is,
which makes that 2 Ralph Macchio movies in 2 weeks back to back, where the filmmakers think they're making a much better movie than they're actually making.
I bet most filmmakers think they're making a better movie than just the law of averages. You know what
I
mean?
Sir, let me tell you, sometimes it's just you're there for the paycheck.
Well, if there's a paycheck involved, that changes the equation. I get it. But from here on out, I'm probably going to be mostly negative about this movie, unless it's just a joke. But I really take some umbrage with the way they deal with some pretty real problems, and some real problems that veterans have, and how they could maybe have increased awareness for the positive, but instead they let's put this little bit of Apocalypse Now in here. We've got this Apocalypse Now style ruler of a village out in the woods, and let's put a little bit of these other things in here. I mean, they even talk about Billy the Surfer, and all I can think of is Charlie Don't Surf from Apocalypse Now. Everything I'm seeing feels so derivative. And
the Dennis Aaron character is basically doing Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they don't properly ape from these better films is the complexity that is PTSD, instead of just making it sort of Saturday Night Live skit version as portrayed by Chris Farley.
Yeah. Yeah. This is this thing is like as deep as your fingernail. There's no depth to this movie at all. People keep saying what they think too, which makes me crazy.
And I also kept thinking that crazy guy that loves the gummy bears and Twinkies. I mean, we see what an all sugar diet does to your brain, folks. So if you don't care about your body, at least care about your brain, and don't be like Hal and Mad Murdoch here, who likes to roast his own genitalia.
Hey.
I'll say
don't
this.
Don't you dare bring Murdoch into this.
Well, the first thing I thought as this guy introduces himself to the screen or whatever is like, wow, there's actually a worse version of Randy Quaid out there.
This is the poor man's Randy Quaid.
Like, how poor do you got to be to need a poor man's Randy Quaid? Like, Randy Quaid is in clearance at Walmart. I mean,
we got Randy Quaid at home.
It's tough to how to say it, because it's not good, but I liked how kind of weird his dumb performance was, because he felt, like I said, it felt like he was doing Dennis Hopper in Apocalypse Now, or any Dennis Hopper film, let's be frank. but he's at least doing enough like crazy manic things that, you know, at least makes him feel a little bit dangerous. And that fire stunt is pretty awesome. Him just like running through that's pretty impressive.
I don't know how
I
awesome
want
it
you to
is.
remember that you just said that. I want you to remember, Adam, that exact very phrase you just used when we're talking about Andor in an hour.
Okay.
I think I've seen enough drunk teenagers jump over bonfires like an idiot that I'm not impressed by this guy doing it.
Okay, then maybe that's me. Maybe I'm not a bonfire person. I stay away from fires. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not a bonfire boy.
I'm not a bonfire, but like this activity that I saw right here, I'm just going, this man's out of his effing mind. And it's the actor that's clearly doing it. He ain't a stunt dude, so you know.
And there's one part where I think he's talking about Billy the Surfer again, and he says he had a big smile on his face like a Halloween pumpkin. I couldn't help but think that was a shoehorned Halloween reference, because nobody says your smile is as big as a Halloween pumpkin, do they?
But nobody talks the way any of these people are talking. and I really do think that this is what happens from time to time in this thing, because I've been on a set or two before where, like, you know, you're working on something that's small budge like this thing is, and like the actor is like, hey, do you mind if I try a couple of lines here, like on my own? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. And that's what they come up with. Like,
There's
when you don't have, when you don't have actual, like, you know, people who are gifted with improvisation, this is the sort of thing that an actor who thinks that they can improv can do. Like, this is literally what this feels like.
That's when your F-bombs start flying in hot.
Yes.
They're just like, yeah, this is real. This is hardcore. Yeah. This is the reality of it.
He had a smile as wide as the pumpkin emoji on a Galaxy Note, not on an iPhone, but on a Galaxy Note.
We're very specific with our references.
Have you guys ever gone camping with your dad?
It's been a long, long time, but yeah.
Chauncey?
No, no, I haven't.
I've been on a few camping trips with my dad. They're actually pretty good. My dad was in the military. Were either of your fathers military guys?
Oh, heavens, no.
No.
My dad volunteered for the Air Force during Vietnam because he's...
Wow.
So it was better to volunteer for the Air Force than get drafted into the Marines.
Not wrong. He is not wrong.
And he spent his service bravely in Biloxi, Mississippi, learning to do something like, I don't know, like electrical engineer, communications, something to do with wiring up communication stuff. But he told me they still worked with vacuum tubes back then.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, not bad.
But one time I decided to rewire a radio myself, and I wired it up, plugged it in, poof, blew out a breaker immediately. Lights go out in part of the house.
Yep, tubes.
Very, very, very uncharacteristically, my father's calm. And he says, because he likes this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, let's take a look at what you've done wrong. And he's going to be like a teaching moment and finally have something in common with his son. But he unwraps the electrical tape. He sees the monstrosity that was there, and it was gone. I broke him. I broke his mind. He couldn't even believe someone would be stupid enough to try and do it this way. So it turned from a great moment into like my poor father had to just wonder what kind of monster he'd
My son, the explorer. Let's see how well you've. Oh my God!
but watching this movie, I kept thinking that this movie is inadvertently showing more about the Gen X experience than the Vietnam veteran experience. Like everything this kid's going through, the Vietnam thing could be almost anything else. You know, oh well, you know, my dad couldn't be around because he got a really good job washing cars across the other side of the state. I mean, it doesn't matter what it was.
But you're not wrong, because here's the thing: if we really look at, you know, Lithgow's character here and everything, he's not like the Larry character who's cuckoo bananas on stuff. He's a grumpy old cuss, but you know what? He can be a member of society if indeed he actually wants to.
Hey,
but he doesn't kind of want to.
He could drag his butt to a payphone once a month.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So this is just like, Gen X have the reputation that we have because we were just basically ignored and abandoned. We were the latchkey generation. And this is just really showing so much about that. And I just want to give folks out there a parenting pro tip from an experienced dad. I think I'm not a bad dad. Don't punch your son. That's a good starting point.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Don't punch your son.
Hey, well, you may
want to Damn it, I don't have a pen. Hold on.
But boy, when they're up there in the woods, I'm really watching this and I'm getting a little bit of some feelings of my own, because there's the point where Daniel San looks right at John Lithgow and he says, I'm 18 years old. What do I need with a father now? And I may have asked this question myself once at some point. So, there's a whole lot going on here. And I just couldn't help to think that the missing point of this movie is behavioral health, because maybe there's a little bit of a role. Like, what if that lady was a counselor from the VA and she actually led to some healing here instead of just eternal hurting?
Yeah, and that's like it feels like it's certainly trying to do that, at least. Trying to. How successful it is at it, it's not fantastic, but there are those moments, and within those moments, I thought of Bruce, and I was just like, oh, I bet you this is gonna hit Bruce in a different way than it certainly would somebody like me.
And if your 18-year-old son says something that makes you want to punch him, you may want to think, perhaps I'm responsible in some way for this.
What have I done to elicit this emotion that would make me, be that angry to act upon that in there? Because that's exactly what that is he's not mad at him. He's mad at himself for that.
And you might say he doesn't have control, but you'll notice he never tried to punch Harry.
Yeah.
Because Harry's 8 feet tall.
What gives?
We talk about the like the final kind of I'm going to go kill myself by train, which again I like is the kind of requisite go-to suicide for everybody. It's just like you're announcing it, and it's got a time of date that it could actually happen.
The fact that you don't even have the balls within your own stupid framework to finish the story that you actually want to tell, because this movie so desperately wants to kill Lithgow at the end of this movie.
I thought they had the balls to do it, and I was like, wow, what a darkly cynical movie this is. But it would kind of sit and fit with this what it was building up to at this point.
No, they had to pussy out. They completely didn't do that.
There was a moment where I really thought father and son might both die, and that's the moral of the story: is if you can't live together, you're going to die together. So make it work. But no, they made it like, oh, just be stubborn till the end and it'll all work out.
What I was really hoping for, once you see that Lithgow was on the other side of the tracks and he actually didn't get killed, like if you're going to go that way with it, then at least have him like kind of like splooshed on the front of the train and have him saying something like, I did it for my boy, as like, like it keeps going. But if you're going to be that dumb with it, at least go all in on how dumb you are.
There was also a point where he's on the ground. Ralph Macchio's on the ground and he's grabbed a rifle and he's like scooting through the mud. And I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to turn this into an action movie and Macchio's going to have to shoot Reb Brown to save the day. Like, I really thought it was going to take a weird action movie twist at the end, since Macchio had the gun and we expect him to be a hero. But I will begrudgingly compliment the movie that at least it wasn't that bad. But then again, that might have made it better, because then it would have at least been ridiculous enough to talk about. Yeah.
Or like he gets all tough. People start like these Vietnam vets who are, then
at the end we see.
And then he becomes the tough guy that they're all afraid of.
That's kind of where I thought it might go, is just like Reb Brown kills his dad and then he has to go get revenge, and then the burden of the son goes on to the next son,
Yeah, the next movie would be called Lambert, Distant Thunder 2. Yeah. And it would be all about Ralph Macchio with a red bandana going through the forest trying to hunt down Reb Brown's son or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get Lambert 3, No Way Home. I mean, that's the one where he goes to another planet.
Mm-hmm. At least Lithgow is good when like there's no dialogue and stuff happening. Him just kind of walking around is not all that bad. But like when he starts having the conversations with people and stuff, it's just like this. Yeah, that's when it really shines. Of like, this isn't the role you need to have, man.
Because he's not a gruff guy. Like he clearly is someone who is classically trained.
Yeah,
he has a voice of someone who is classically trained.
When he's neurotic smoking a cigarette, I believe that part.
Yeah.
I believe the cigarette smoking. I do believe that Juilliard or whatever school he went to, NYU, that he,
They got smoking classes.
Yeah. Yeah, like they teach you how to smoke there.
How to smoke on film.
I did forget how cool smoking cigarettes was till I watched this movie.
Hey, listen, I mean, one of the biggest non-smoking advocates was Roger Ebert, but said, I detest smoking in every way, shape, and form except on film where it looks spectacular. It's like I got no problems with it because it looks so damn good on film.
Yeah, it's not Ben Grimm without a stogie in his mouth.
Yeah, I absolutely agreed. Now, if it comes down to it,
hold on. If we're
more?
at the end,
Yeah.
I've got plenty of notes.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm just going to put them the way that I wrote them down. I turned this movie on 2 weeks ago. It should be done by next Thursday. This movie is so long. The pacing is ridiculous. Here we go. You know that Lithgow was in Vietnam because he's wearing that standard issue green military jacket at the beginning of the movie, and literally every scene at the beginning of the movie.
That's how you know. I mean, what else you gonna do?
Listen, Rambo had that. He walked into town wearing that jacket. It just makes sense.
You know what you can't do though with Lithgow? Mohawk.
It's true.
So think about that.
The Travis Bickle.
It's true.
Can't pull it off. So you got to have the jacket.
I also don't think for even a second that Ralph Macchio was valedictorian of his school.
He was a classic. He was a Juilliard classical musician last week. Are you saying that you don't believe Ralph Macchio is the best of all the things all the time? Come on.
I don't. I really don't.
Mm.
They keep in the writing a letter to his son scene, the entire writing the damn near the entire letter.
Yeah.
If they're keeping that in, what did they edit out of this movie? I wonder.
That's what I'm saying, man. It was originally that 2.5 hour mallet cut, and then they're like, no, you get it down. Take and put in a couple valedictorian speeches.
Lithgow in the diner. I love seeing characters that handle their money like a small child with crumple up bills, throwing pennies on a table. How much is this much money? That's kind of what he's doing here.
So bad.
The inciting incident in this movie happens 45 minutes into the movie. That is a crime.
It's called a slow burn. Come on.
There is nothing to burn. What are you fucking talking about? Slow burn. During the hilarious
fire ending on the train tracks.
During the hilarious bar fight scene in this movie, where not once but twice John Lithgow kneads his fingers together, so that he's making one giant fist with his two hands, and he puts them together and he hits the dude from the stand in the back. Not once, twice that happens during the fight scene. Just incredible. Incredible. The article of Lithgow's friend dying from the train, suicide by train. The article in the paper reads, Vietnam vet kisses train.
Yes.
Kisses in quote marks, though.
Did the editor get fired minutes after publishing that?
Well, that's the colloquialism, it's just that's just what the kids are calling it. Kissing a train.
And this is my final note we didn't get to. Is it in Ralph Macchio's contract that he always has to drive an older car?
That was a nice ride, though.
Yeah, but he's literally doing it in every movie.
Yeah.
Something works for you. You stick to it. He still does it. Like whenever he plays a cop, he's always in an old beat up sedan.
I will drive anything past 1975.
Can I finish out a few of my notes too, Sean? I only got a couple.
Yeah. Please.
I said, you can't invoke the Vietnam War without CCR, can you? And then I asked, how did CCR become the official movie music for Vietnam?
Man, that's a great point, man.
It's the best marketing for them. I'll say this, though. I think this is why this isn't widely distributed outside of DVD and everything, is because the rights for CCR. That song, I would put money on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I would, in reference to the discount Randy Quaid, I said, that dude's doing it with the forest creatures, isn't he? That was pretty obvious to me.
Pretty good.
And sneaking in the woods, that's a stabbing. I just kind of wrote that around. I think he's really
good. That's good.
That's a stab.
That's good.
I think he's really more John Walker than Captain America. I said that about Red Brown here.
Oh yeah.
Thank goodness they had a flatbed up there. And my final one is, this will be a Father's Day tradition in my house.
It doesn't quite get to the Varsity Blues level of
no, but my God, it's super close. We're almost there, man.
You think I'm a bad dad? Look at this freak John Lithgow. He left his family to be with the Sasquatch.
Well, the worst thing is there are films with which John Lithgow is a worse father than this. So
Yeah.
Like Daddy's Home too.
That one's he's a great dad in that one comparatively.
All the lip kisses in the world, man. I love that movie.
Now, if you had to recast this movie of our friend Ralph Macchio here and everything, who do you got? Now, I got this one. If I was making this movie, I would have I'd replace him with River Phoenix. Now, that would be a good role for whatever the hell the character's name is in this film.
I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to say Ricky Schroeder.
Ricky Schroeder might be good. Yeah, I can see that.
Slater.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Christian Slater might be too good. He'd need to be the grizzled Vietnam vet. John Lithgow would be the son. Totally turn the casting on its ear.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to because that would be like Christian Slater would be probably a good one. Certainly around this time and everything, right? Proper age. It would definitely work. He's got to have a good gruff dad that could kind of go toe to toe with him though. That's a tough one
because he'd eat John Lithgow for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. He'd run circles around Lithgow, and like that's not the pairing at all. But
Kevin Costner,
okay,
Jackie Gleason,
okay,
like
all right,
Smokey and the Bandit version of Jackie Gleason. Buford T. Justice.
I definitely like Costner, but I'm trying to think of how he would end up pairing with Slater and everything. Maybe. These are interesting ideas, and
Hey, how about Henry Fonda?
Holy hell! Isn't he dead by 88? I think he is.
I'm picturing the On Golden
84, 81, right? And he died right after that.
I'm picturing the On Golden Pond version of Henry Fonda living out in the caves in the woods.
I love the idea, to go backwards for a second. I love the idea of Jackie Gleason being the Lithgow character, but Burt Reynolds is his son.
Oh, I would be their opening night. It
yeah,
would make
right.
more. Oh, it'd make more than $150,000 at the box office if that happened, which is what this movie made.
Yeah, that's right. I'm your son. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Well, these movies only.
I'm the valedictorian. Yeah.
Smartest guy in school. You don't want to. All right. Movies only come in two forms: art or fart. Bruce, where does Distant Thunder fall for you? Art or fart?
I worked hard to find joy where I could in this movie, but at the end of the day, we started off the show by saying, what's the budget? What's the box office? $8 million budget for $150,000 total box office.
Yikes.
You can smell that one for hours in the public restroom. This is a fart. That is Distance Thunder. Come on. It's got to be a fart movie.
Sean.
Come on. You know where I land. I'm more interested in what you think, how you're going to pretend that you actually think that there's some good in this movie.
Listen, it's not a completely. I didn't think it was a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. Do I think it's an absolute and utter turd? No. I like to, as far as like maybe a John Lithgow completist kind of thing. I like the guy as an actor, even if it doesn't quite work all the time. I enjoy seeing what he does with stuff. This is not fantastic. Like you said, it's not a role that was written for him or one that he should be playing or anything. But be that what it is, it's. And again, I like the Reb Brown bit of it just because it does seem like he's so much cooler than he was in Captain America and stuff like that. But ultimately, the movie's not great. It is a fart. But I'm at least glad it's I've watched it. I don't hate myself, and I don't feel like I wasted all of the time. Just maybe 30 minutes. If you lob 30 minutes out of this, it would actually be a much better movie and would clip along a little bit faster. And like we don't need as much of the weird, just kind of drama for drama's sake that goes on in a lot of it. It feels like it's trying to be more important. And again, I think the director's far more interested in kind of the visual aspect of everything as opposed to all the words that are coming out of everyone's mouth. I think they just were like, hey man, I want to try to make something that looks like pretty and arty and stuff like that. And like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But overall, still got to just say fart though.
Well, good. Is that you did the right thing.
We won't have to kill you after the program closes, and that's fine. And that's as long as I can, stay my beating this week. I think we'll be a-okay. Well, that will do it for this episode of Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Join us next week. We are going to get in here with yet another one with my cousin Vinny. Sean, are you going to leap through the internet and kill us next week?
No, because that's a good movie. Like for the first time in 4 weeks, we're going to see a good movie. I can't wait.
Listen, and then, that's how we're going to do it. You got to torture you for a little bit, then give you a little bit of good stuff, and then smack you on the head one more time as we leave out the month.
Are we watching the theatrical release or the director's cut where they replace the short guy with John Lithgow?
Oh, I think that's that is the special edition that came out here.
The Gow cut.
So that'll do it for this episode. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Just keep your eye on my YouTube page, YouTube channel, however you refer to that. It's Bruce Leslie, that's it, or at Anime Dad. You can find it there. I may put up a new video here in the next little bit. I can't promise it'll be anything you'll enjoy watching, but I'll enjoy making it, and it'll have a nice backdrop.
That's all it needs to be, my man. That's all it needs to be. Something that you actually want to do. I'm going to be doing some of that next week as well over there on the YouTubes and stuff. I haven't made a video in like 2 weeks and everything, mostly because I was on a vacation for the last week and the other week was another thing. But I've got a lot of things to do. Boy, let me tell you something, fellas. I'm watching more Clint Eastwood movies right now than I think ever have in my entire life. And it's been pretty awesome and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of those different things. So check us out over there on the YouTubes. Leave a like and comment and subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. We really appreciate it. Sean?
Why don't you become a Patreon member where you can hear me not complain incessantly about the complete trash that we've been forced to watch?
It's the only time he's happy.
And instead, we get to see maybe my favorite thing I've ever seen on television ever, which is Andor. And we have a show called Andor 30 Questions, where we ask 30 questions of each week of Andor of the past 4 weeks of Andor that we've gotten. And I have been just, it's the reason why I'm not like just being the worst co-host in the world right now, is because I got to watch Andor for 4 weeks. Because otherwise, I know that I'm a giant sucky baby when it comes to things that I don't want to do. And never mind a full 5 weeks of something I don't want to do. But Andor has just been such a soothing balm. Become a Patreon member. Listen to that show.
Yeah, why put that balm on your sores there and everything, and get on in
Discount
there.
Randy Quaid. I know where he needs some balm.
Buddy boy. That'll do it, everybody. Join us next week for My Cousin Vinny as we continue our Mucho Ralph Macchio marathon for Sweet Sounds of Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portraits, reminding you to get out there and watch the movies, you dirty babies.